Hello, 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 hello. Happy Friday, everybody. This is Keisha. I'm one half of the host of the Regal Mindset Podcast show. Jay, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get on to introducing our special guest.
Absolutely. I am Joy, the coach, and I am the other half of the Regal Mindset show, and I'm excited today.
I know we have been very excited. So before we go all the way down into a rabbit hole, I just want to say thank you to our guest. We're going to introduce her. She is Toni Young from the Bulldagger Chronicles.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity
Absolutely.
to share a little bit.
Thank you again for taking the time out of your day. I know you're very busy. I do try to catch your lives when you're on TikTok, so I'm just excited to have this conversation. I was talking to Jay and many weeks ago, and we were trying to unpack some words that the term bulldagger itself. And I'm sure you've heard this many times before, the weight that it carries in our community and in our family. So kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move into the conversation.
Perfect. I am, my name's Toni. I started Bulldagger Chronicles, I guess about 3.5 years ago. My day job is that I run a nonprofit and we serve people in the Appalachia region. So that's 13 states, really rural America, dealing with what we call the syndemic of HIV, viral hepatitis, and substance use disorder. And right now, I'm really kind of trying to focus on what do we do in this country with $1 trillion worth of healthcare cuts, and that's going to really impact poor, Black, brown folks and rural folks and folks that use drugs in this country in a way that it won't impact other people. So that's a bit of why I'm traveling all around, and it's been so hard to get this together. So, but I thank you for being patient with me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Great. Well, listen,
Right.
I love that, that you're giving back in that way. And with this current climate and the administration, I applaud you again, because like you said, it's really going to mostly impact people who look like us. Right.
Mhm.
And this has been a fight that's been ongoing for many years. And I think that if there was more of a priority about it, especially with the AIDS pandemic, I feel like it would have been addressed and probably solved at this point had we given it more attention, or the attention that it really deserved. That's my opinion.
Right.
Yeah. So absolutely. So let's get to
Let's
why you
get to it. Let's
created.
get to it. Let's get
Why
to
you
it.
created
Oh,
it.
hey, well, I don't think you want to. I mean, let's ask the question you really want to ask. It's not
Yeah.
why did I create it. It's why did I name it. And I mean, it's more than why did I name it, not why do I create it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, so why the name Bulldagger Chronicles? One is that it was really very, very important to me that I reclaim the name, that I reclaim the word. I think that we use certain words in our culture and Black culture that I think if other people used it, if other people said it, we would be like, we gonna hit me up. Right.
Yeah.
But when we start to really unpack things like, it's kind of like, you know, why it is that white women can't be studs, right? A white woman
Yeah.
just can't be a stud. She can be butch. She can be a lot of things. She can be a stone butch. She can be, masculine. She can be a lot of things, but she just by definition cannot be a stud. And the truth is also about a bulldagger. A white woman really can't be a bulldagger under any set of circumstances. If we look at the definition or the history of the word, it really can find its roots, many of its roots in actually the Harlem Renaissance culture. You really see the term always used to refer to African American women who were masculine of center. The other piece of this is that it really didn't become a derogatory term until it became bull dyke, right? And then when the
Mm.
dyke part, and that's when we started talking about primarily other cultures, white women. And so the thing is that if we think about how bulldagger was used during the Harlem Renaissance, and I always try to go to this, the biggest example, and I have a post about this, is that You can find some research that'll take it all the way back to, like, was it this Irish goddess kind of person? Was it
Yeah.
her? Or what, and it's like, well, actually, if you look at it in writing or that kind of thing, what you really do, you see it in reference to folks like Ma Rainey, the blues singer, right? And if you read and
Mhm.
not just go see the movie, but if you actually figure out or read about her history, one of the ways in which Ma Rainey was like accepted in not just Harlem, but in the South and other places, you would read stories about her. She would be walking in the hotels with two women on one on each arm. She'd be in a man tailored
Mhm.
suit, and she would, I mean, and it'd be here come that bulldagger, but it wasn't a derogatory term. It was what she was. I mean, she was what she was,
Yeah.
and so I think that for me, it was very important that we reclaim it, that I reclaim it. I mean, we battled with, honestly, we battled with TikTok, we battled with Instagram because they wouldn't give us the name at first.
Oh wow.
And so we
Mm.
had to go back. We literally just got the trademark done after a 3-year struggle with the U.S. Patent Office for the trademark, also for Bulldagger
Right.
Chronicles. They were like, you can't have it, and we were like, yes, we can. Here's why. I mean, and our lawyers kept going back and forth with them about the legality of it, right? Like, could we use it? The same with TikTok. At first, they were like, no, you can't have it. You have to say, what did they said, you have to have it say Bulldagger educational something. I'm like, we're not doing that.
Mhm.
And yeah, and and the reality also of it is that, have we lost sponsorship opportunities? Yeah.
Oh
I
wow.
mean, we've had corporations that were willing to fund some projects, and they were like, will you change your name? Will you not use that
Mhm.
name and use the nonprofit name? Will I mean, it's basically like, will you do anything? And I'm like, no. I mean, we just won't get the sponsorship.
Right.
Gotcha. Man, that is crazy.
Mm.
It's interesting though. Well, so I'm glad you guys knew enough about building the brand and wanting to actually reclaim the name, as you say, right?
Mhm.
Um, Personally, does the name Bulldagger have any weight for you?
Absolutely. I like to think that, my style of swagger now get me zaddy status, but I don't know if I didn't know if Zaddy Chronicles was gonna have the same resonance, right? But I mean, I think that for me, I mean, I don't know if all of us, that's not true, but I think many of us growing up, we got called bulldagger in a very derogatory way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that was the other reason why it was important for me to claim it and say, no, it's not a bad thing. I've been this way my whole life. Since I was 6. I knew what I was and what time it was for me. So why not reclaim it, make it more positive, and talk about the things that are, like, again, about lifestyle and about education, about health, wellness, and everything from our finance to our travel to who we are as a whole
Mhm.
people. And that's why it became just very, very important to me, especially I think for me, in the TikTok space or in the Insta space, where I didn't really see, because I'm old, so, and I didn't really see people my age cohort kind of talking about some of their history, but also some of their trauma, because
Yeah.
some of us experienced the word bulldagger in a very traumatic way. You gonna
Mhm.
grow up and be a bull, you old bull. And it's like, well, let's can we usually like back that up a bit and say, then there's something to bulldagger swagger too. So
Okay.
let's claim some of our stuff too.
Mhm.
um you know yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So, me myself, and then I'll let you answer, Jay. Just like you said, as I was growing up, and I was born in '75, so uh, I did not necessarily allow myself, or I wasn't necessarily given the permission to be the authentic self. So I wasn't called that in person, right? Now, what they said
Mm,
behind closed doors is another subject. But
Mhm.
I'm sure if there was a term, then that would have been a term that was
mhm,
associated with me, right? So I
Yeah.
mhm,
mostly I got tomboy or things like, of that nature. But that the word bulldagger itself is very heavy for me. And like you said, it does come from a very derogatory place.
Right.
But as of today, and as we understand that words have power, and if we're reclaiming certain things, especially within our culture, we can have a different meaning or a different context behind that. So if it's not as heavy for me today, but I do recall a time and a place where yes, it was. And how dare you speak to me in that way? And we're gonna have to have some other words, if you do. But Jay, what's your feeling, your thoughts on that?
So I was the one that I had, and I almost still have, I would say, a problem with the word. Reason is because I'm born and raised in the South. So you know how that word was used against us in so many ways. And I could remember the disgust that would be in the way they used it. Oh, bulldagger. So bulldagger and dyke, those are like a Caucasian calling us the N-word to me. And so it took, and it's still taking me some used to get used to, because it was, especially in the South, it was used as a term to describe older women that presented primarily as men.
Correct.
Not masculine of center. They know they wanted to be men. They did their bras, their boobs was hanging down to their knees. They wore man clothes. That's how they bought. So that is what the overall persona, that is literally how bulldagger, and you looked it up, the word in the dictionary, that's who you saw. So we didn't want to be that. Because if it was okay to be a lesbian, but it wasn't okay to be a bulldagger. And when
but I'm sorry, I interrupt all the time, and I apologize. And this is your podcast, not mine.
no,
And
I do
so,
the same thing.
and you've hit the nail on the head of the why, right?
Right.
Because okay, so imagine it's not you, but it is that titty down to the knee having, suit wearing, man shoe having, Dob hat having on, cane walking woman, right?
Right.
Guess what? She deserves to be seen too.
Right. And
And
we're understanding that now.
right,
But
right.
growing up, no.
And that's what I'm saying. And like I say, I think all of us had that. And I think that that when what resonated with, whether it was our parents or our community, or society's mind, right? That was the only thing
Right.
that a lesbian could be. So I mean, the other piece of that is, some of it is about allowing a space for masculine of center folk over the age of 50 to be seen, right? But then there's the other piece to allow folks who are different than that to understand that there is this whole wide gambit of what women who love women look like.
Right.
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 What women, and so as time, I think, has gone on, again, from, it's like, I say the studs with locks and baggy pants, they're like tribbles off of Star Trek. Like, they just all over the place now. I didn't see
Right.
them. I didn't know. I don't know where they came from, but
Right.
they came from. They're all over the place now. And it's
Right.
like, when we were, I'm older, I think, than both of you, but it's like you didn't see this many what I would call easily identified young Black women who have same gender loving tendencies, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
didn't, we didn't see, you were a little bit in the closet, you hid a little
True.
bit, you did this a little bit. There's a whole different culture out there. And so I think the reason why now, why for this word, why for this term, is because
Right.
it too has to breathe. We
Right.
too have to breathe. We have to give them space too. We have to give the people of my generation a space too, because I think that for all the reasons that you've just articulated, when we were coming up, that space to be seen, felt, and heard, how oppressive
Right.
was that for them? How
Yeah.
Right.
oppressive was that? All right, for them to not say, you know what? I mean, sometimes I think about it. You remember those old video? Not old, they're not old videos, but they're documentaries about the pimp balls of Detroit, right?
Uh-huh.
Have you ever
Yep.
seen those pimp balls in Detroit? And you're like, hey, who weighing that? And but the reality is that there's also a culture of fashion. One of the
Mm-hmm.
other things that was really true about the term bulldagger was that they were known for a couple of things. Thing one was their sense of style.
Mm-hmm.
Number two was the fact that they were protectors of their families, those
Right.
Mm-hmm.
families of origin that I'm talking about. What they were also were usually the breadwinners in a family
Yeah.
dynamic that they created. And I think that that's some of the other pieces, though, that strong, that sexual prowess, that leader at home, leader in community stuff, that we also need to lift those women up for as such now and then. I think and so I definitely get the how it triggers people,
Mm-hmm.
but what I beg people to do is to stop and say, hey, you know what? We've given space and room and air to the L, the G, the B, the T, the Q, the
Mm-hmm.
I, and the A. And can we give another? Can we give a B2, the Bulldagger 2? Can we,
Mm-hmm.
because that needs room to breathe and that
Right.
history to be seen. Because that's what that alphabet soup is about being seen.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah.
to cut you off. I apologize.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was good because I don't want nobody to think that I'm taking away the strength that it has. I'm giving it from a perspective of those that still feel a type of way, and they need to understand that everybody has a different classification, and everybody, I believe, on the LGBT community spectrum still has some undoing,
Mm.
because we can look at the younger ones and we're like, yeah, y'all don't even have it together. Then we look at the older ones and we're like, yeah, I ain't trying to do that. So I think every generation has
Right.
some alt with the previous and the future generation.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so, and again, like you said, the Harlem Renaissance, that was New York. They was very progressive. But when you're from Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina,
It,
it's
it, hit-
like
it hit different. It really
it
does.
hits
It
so
hit different.
different.
Hmm.
And it calls for conversation to make sure that each genre is earning respect, to understanding how to take the nastiness away from it, to clear
Hmm.
the palate from the word,
Hmm.
clear the palate. And I'm glad that, you took this upon yourself to push the narrative, because it is unheard of.
Hmm.
Absolutely unheard of. And just like, when you have the Caucasian lesbians, they love the word dyke. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I wish somebody would call me that.
Right.
I
Right.
still feel that way.
Right, and I think that that's the thing, right? Is that if you grew up came out in the 70s, 80s, you didn't have other lexicon, you didn't
Right.
have other words. You had dyke, and you wanted a T-shirt with it on it and the whole nine. But the reality of it is that when I think about it today, that's not me. That's
Right.
not, that's not my culture. That,
Mhm.
the same way, like I say, I think that when we also were able to lean into us as, our blackness as well as our sexual orientation, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that leaning into both of those things lets you kind of say, well, wait a minute, this is a part of my history. So I'm okay to lean into my history. Now,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the N word. If somebody else called me that, I got a problem. Now, if a couple of my
Yeah.
friends, we sitting around playing spades, it's gonna get used a couple times.
Right, right, right.
Faithfully.
But
It's gonna get right. It's gonna get used a couple times.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that, and I think that it is somewhat that as well. What is culturally normative for us? And even some people would be like, I don't use that word, and nobody should use that word. Black people shouldn't use that word either. But I'm sorry, I use the word. I use it all the time. I use it like I use my name. And if we playing spades, I'm really gonna use it. And if you renege, I'm gonna call you a renegger. That's all I'm gonna call you. A renegger, renegger, renegger.
Right.
I love that.
So, with that being said, it was a conversation from a younger generation, of course, that is, with the term stud and
Mhm.
how they had a problem because white people was trying, you can't be a stud
You
because,
can't.
yeah. And so, okay, go into that for us.
You can't be the same way you can't be a white bulldog. You can be a bull dyke, but you cannot be a bull dagger. You just can't you white. You can be again, you can be a stone butch, you can be butch, you can be masculine, you can be all of those things, but what you can't be culturally is a stud. Just can't it's a cultural norm, right? It's
Mhm.
Right.
so words and lexicon get attached to certain cultures, and that's just the way the culture goes. The culture
Mhm.
says that's our word. You can't mess with it. You can't take it. And that's all there is to it. And I think
Mm.
that so, and I say that there are like they're bull daggers, and the bull daggers are like 55 and up,
Okay.
right? They're 55 and up. And then there's lesbians and women who love women, and then 55 to from 55 down to about 35. 35 and under, use a stud. Right. So it's like there's these different groupings. I mean, that are really
True.
also about age and culture as well. Right. Because if you really think about how do those groups refer to each other, how do they
Yeah.
refer to themselves? That's how it is. And so who am I to tell you how you define yourself? But
Gotcha.
the
Right.
thing is that it's kind of like cultural appropriation. You can't
Mm.
you I mean you might want to be a stud, but here's the thing. I mean the thing also the thing is that you can't be a stud because if you really look at studs, they're masculine center, black, most of them got locks.
You a stud, Fred.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, right, and I mean, and even that is like I talk about it a lot. It's like back in the olden times, right? Back in the olden times, there was the butch in the relationship and the femme in the
Hmm.
relationship,
Yep.
and that's what it was.
Yep.
I know what you did, and you know what I did. Everybody had a job.
Yeah.
Everybody
Right.
had a job,
Equal
right?
employment.
Now Right now now we like the Japanese. Everybody doing every
Everything.
job, and right. And I'm like, when did that start? Because they're like, and they were like, oh, Unc, it's been going on for a while. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been out in the street. I didn't know that this was happening back in
Yeah.
my time. I mean, a touch me not was a normal thing. Now you would think it was the crucifixion. Here come. And it was like,
Mhm.
and, and so now again, I think it's about culture, it's about time, it's about evolution. And I
Yeah.
think that's what all of those things are, right? So
Yeah.
we evolve as a culture, and our black lesbian culture, our
Mhm.
black stud culture, our black butch culture, our black femme culture, our black, all of these things, our black bulldagger culture, all of these things evolve and grow over time.
Yeah. Yeah. All good points. I'm sorry, Jay.
Yeah.
I'll get you in just one
Mhm.
second. Absolutely right. There has been a cultural shift in terms of how we refer to one another and how we associate. My question to both of you guys, and you're welcome to answer it. And, we'll give Toni the floor first. Is as masculine presenting women, how we show up into the world, right, and how we interact with them. And as you said, you've lost some sponsorship because of the name. How do you feel as though the world accepts us or deals with us in our masculinity and how we show up
Mhm.
in certain spaces? How what's been your
Mhm.
take, your experience?
And all my life and all my way. And I mean, I think that it is always so fascinating to me
Mm,
that folks can't wrap their head around it, right? Because what
Mhm.
happens, I think, for in my experience, and this is my experience, not everyone's, I find that heterosexually identified black women, some may get oh, I'm attracted and I don't know what that is,
mm-hmm.
right? So that's off-putting for them. But then if there's the religiosity piece and they have an anti-gay bent, that's problematic for them.
Mhm.
And then I think that with black men, I think heterosexually identified Black men, I say many of them are also kind of threatened by what they perceive as the
Mhm.
masculinity. So
Mm-hmm.
that becomes a problem or a challenge. But I think all in all, for me in my professional life, I think I probably am most fascinated by the response of white gay men. I
Mm.
think that white gay
Mm.
men are the ones that I've probably been the most pigeonholed by, and the most kind of put in a "you're too much like a man." And it could
Oh,
be the spaces and work that I do, right? Because I'm in the HIV space. So and I've
mhm,
been this is what I've done for 30 something years. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been predominantly gay white men who are in leadership positions and funding positions and a whole bunch of other positions. And so I keep, some people can say, no, it's just that you're an asshole. I mean, but so then there's that, right? And so I don't know if how much of it is that, and then how much of it is that the idea of men, particularly gay men, being able to deal with their issues around women, and then
mhm,
being able to deal with women who are presenting in a masculine fashion. If you look at, for example, HIV leadership, HIV organizations, if you look at LGBT organizations, it is only recently, and I say in the last 3 to 5 years, that you've seen Black women in the leadership roles. But most importantly, even if you look, I can only think of myself and one other who I would say is masculine presenting. There are
Oh wow.
others that are more masculine, certainly, or probably to the more masculine end of
mhm,
the spectrum. But to actually say you present dude like, or you look, I can say, oh, yep, butch les, or stud, whatever. There's very few of those that certainly elevate to leadership positions.
mhm,
HIV, LGBT, women's health. If you look across those spectrums, you don't see us there. And I have
Mm-hmm.
to say, I wonder if you don't see us there because of not wanting to see us there.
right.
Mm. Good point.
That
Jay?
is a good point. No, I wanted to say, like, you made a really good point about people being more accepting and taking the I don't want to say demonization of that word out of it. But we've had incidents where comedians have used the word and got bad backlash. So for someone who's advocating for the word, advocating for that genre, how would you tell the community to react to situations like that? Because those people, especially like Ricky Smiley, is a couple of them that came out there and said it, and then they had to go and do a public apology because we were so against it. But then you, on the other hand, is saying you should embrace it because this is how we're represented. It's not bad when
Right.
half, I would say over 60% of the community thinks it's bad.
Right. And I think over 60% of it thinks it's bad. I think about whether it's Ricky Smiley, or I think about Dave Chappelle
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and his work, and it shows, particularly around trans space. And I think that for me, and I am a huge fan, for example, of Dave Chappelle. I think he's probably one of the smartest comedians that we've ever
Yes,
had in our
absolutely.
lifetime. And I think that even when folks got upset, and I want to say upset, when people were offended, because that's what it
Mm-hmm.
was, people weren't upset, people were offended by his comments. Again, and I think some people felt like his reaction or his response was well, if a white person has said, well, I could say this because I have a Black friend, right? If it was a Black joke, right? That they felt like he was saying, well, I can make this joke because I have trans friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I actually would say to folks, I would say it differently. Give me a culture, give me a people he hasn't made fun of.
Right.
That's when you should worry,
Mm-hmm.
when he doesn't make fun of you. And I think that, and for me, I think that that's kind of it. when you can put me in a joke like that, you normalize me, you see me. You're
Mhm.
not trying to treat me differently than you've treated other people. And I think that we want to do, exceptionalism on one hand, but we want to be inclusive on one hand, but you don't want to get included when the joke is about you. So
Right.
you want you right you so you include you, but don't include you at joke time. Okay,
Mhm.
so I need a list of when I can talk about you and when I can't talk about you.
Right.
Give me
Right.
the list. Give me the list. And if I can't tell a trans joke, okay, got it. That's no trans jokes. Got it. Okay, or you can only be trans and tell a trans joke. Okay, or I can only be black and tell a black joke. Or I can only
Mhm.
be okay. So now is that I can only be a black bulldagger to tell bulldagger jokes. Then we owed a whole bunch of money from somebody because a whole bunch
Right.
of people been telling bulldagger jokes for a long time.
Right.
And so that's what I think. I think that we have to start to make some, not exceptions, but we have to have broader understanding of,
Yeah.
if we want to be in culture and be a part of culture, guess what? We get to people gonna make jokes about us just like we make jokes about them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And ultimately we all just want to be seen, just like you said. And
Right.
Right.
each genre deserves just that, right?
Right.
Even on this platform, as I mentioned to you earlier, Tony, that we're concerned, Regal Mindset is concerned about the well-being of the LGBT community,
Mhm.
period, point blank. We have particular pillars that we do focus on, that we try to, provide education around. And those pillars are um, family, finance, mental, and physical health, right?
Hmm.
All of that is included in that. And like you said, a lot of the things that affect the LGBT community itself, a good portion of it could be resolved if we just had conversations, right? The
Mhm.
disconnect between masculine presenting women and trans men, uh, those there's some conflict there. Those conversations need to happen. There's a lot of conversations need to happen with the elders and the seniors, and the younger group of people. There should be conversation or continuous conversation around Bulldagger and the history, right? As well as how they want to be seen and heard in this day and time. All of that is necessary. What do you think that we should be doing aside from that going forward to kind of help be more inclusive and more family like versus being separate and siloed across the board?
Tell the truth. Stop
Okay.
lying.
Okay.
Stop lying. Stop lying and saying you that we accept everybody. Stop lying and say, "Oh, we don't have no issue with the transgender people." Stop lying and saying, "Oh, we kumbaya, we
Mhm.
kumbaya." And we everybody on the L, the G, the B, the T, the Q, the I, the A, and that we accept everybody. We don't.
Mhm.
We know sometimes, and that's the problem, is that sometimes we'll say something in our friend group that we say we know that's not politically acceptable, politically correct. But then when we okay, yeah, it's okay, but then we don't invite them, or then we don't respect
Mhm.
them. And so I think that there are conversations that we need to have that we don't have. We need to have conversations about what is happening right now with the transgender community in the United
Hmm.
States of America. And
Mhm.
so and so you've got a lot of people that you have a group of people, black people primarily a lot of black women who say, get somebody else to do it now.
Right.
And that includes the defense of trans rights, right?
Hmm.
It's like, get somebody else to do it. We did all our work already. Get somebody else to do it. Well, okay, if we're gonna get somebody else to do it, and I can't say we didn't do a lot of heavy lifting. Can't say we didn't do a lot of heavy lifting during the election. Can't say we didn't do a lot of heavy lifting during the whole Biden administration. Can't say we didn't. So if they don't come for us the next time, what are you gonna do?
I
Right?
got you.
Because
I
Mhm.
got
the reality right now is, who is under attack is not just the T's.
you. True.
Right? It is not just the transgender community that is under attack right now. Our way of life that we understood it, whether we believed it to be a great system, the democratic system, a democracy, and whether we wanted to say Black people, particularly Black women, were treated fairly or equitably in that system, I would argue certainly no. But the road that we're headed down is a system that will take away the minimal rights that we already have and is bending them into a pretzel before our very eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to need more and more people on our side than we're going to need on the other side. So
Mm-hmm.
alienating any group right now, I think, is a misstep.
Yeah.
Now, I think being strategic is important, but alienation is probably a misstep.
Yeah. I would agree
Go
with
ahead.
you.
The coach popped up. The coach was like, "Hell nah."
What do you got, Jay?
No, you can go ahead, Keisha. I can remember what I got to say.
Okay. Now, I was just going to say, you're absolutely right. I think that we do need to be honest with ourselves, right? Me personally, I don't have issues. I think that we're stronger together, but we don't realize that yet. It's easier for us to fight internally within the alphabet, the LGBT alphabet. It's easier for us to fight internally, right? While we're distracted from what Orange is doing, right? And I think that's part of the plan. That's a part of his plan. But if we don't figure it out sooner rather than later, we're going to be in a shit of mess, in a world of mess.
That's the problem, right? The problem is that we're actually in it now. It's not we're going to be in it, or that it's going to happen, or that the system's going to crumble, or that the system's going to change. It is happening. And the problem is that we keep saying, well, I'll wait until it actually happens. Well, it's happening. The system is being dismantled before your very eyes. A whole Department of Education, $1 trillion in healthcare losses. Where do you think these people are going for healthcare?
Yeah.
So this is where my thinking about it. I feel that the Black community, the LGBTQIA community, because those are the primary communities I'm a part of, that we're a part of, including the women community, are too reliant on the system being corrected, instead of correcting the internal system that we've always been reliant on.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes with school systems. I have a DEI and yellow belt, so I've tried to make sure I was educated enough in it. We always will have the D. That would never change. We're going to always have the I. What we would never have is the E. So if we stop trying to get equity and create it in our own system, one, let's start with schools. We have the ability. We're the only community that does not have a school system. The Jewish have one. The Asians have one until they come to America to get a higher education. However, they don't bring their young kids here to get educated. You have I said the Jewish people, they don't let their kids go nowhere, but they educate themselves. And the white people are going to always have the public school system, and now predominantly the private. PWI. I went to a PWI. So I get it. But we have the capability and the ability to create. One, we can just teach and put stuff online because we're looking for them to give us our history. Then we get mad because it ain't the right history, or it's what they want to tell us. We can't have it both ways. So if we're going to advocate even for our transgender brothers or sisters, we need to understand, let's stop trying to get in their space. We got the capability of building our own table. So then we don't have to worry about that. And I understand the system was never created to include us. So why are we so focused on that when we can literally buy our own town? We can literally create our own network of banks. We can literally create all of these things. All of the D9, not all of them, I would say, I think 3 of them. Them D9s, they have their own credit unions. It takes $1 million to establish a credit union. So when we're looking for them to involve us, to make it even we're literally, it's almost insanity. We're continually fighting for the same thing, expecting a different result. Whether Trump was in, whether Trump do it, whether Kamala do it, whether Biden, it doesn't. That's not. We're not their agenda. So then we need to make ourselves the agenda. So that's my thinking about it. I understand. I'm here about fairness, but I'm not going to argue about a bathroom because you can stay home and use the bathroom. I do it. Or I'm not. That's not our pain point. We don't have to be seen by them to be seen. Because if we, as our community, start respecting each other, because I think that's where the bottom line, respecting each other and how we present each other, how we present ourselves in this world, then I think not only that, we are the economy on both ends. 30 trillion with the African American, and LGBT is right under that. We dominate the economy. So if we do what we need to do, they ain't got shit to say.
Do you want me to answer that?
No, go ahead. I said that's how I feel, and that's the hill I'm gonna die on.
Right. I mean, and I think, and I don't know that you're wrong, right? I mean, but the thing is it's like right now I'm literally going around the country to meet with community-based organizations and clinics to talk to them about this $1 trillion worth of healthcare cuts, right? And to say, I think that the people that manage organizations and run organizations kind of know what is happening, but do people on the ground know what's happening? And what do they need? What do they need to build some sort of protections for them? Because the systems that we know are gone. Now, some people believe that those systems might bounce back at some point. I don't. I think we have to create something new. I think we have to reimagine something new. But I also think we have to start at a very similar place. One of the things that so often we've believed is that we've believed that we were monolithic, that we were acting as one, that Black people were acting as one, people living with HIV were acting as one, the organizations that responded to them or for them, defended them, worked on their behalf, was responding in one, that everybody had the same, that we had some series of agreements about what was important that we pay for, what was important that we do. And I say that that's just not been true. It's not been true for a long time. If you look at, the Black Panther Party, I mean, they put into a lunch program, school program. So we know it's possible, right? We know what is possible, but we have not acted as one for a very long time. So what we've got to do is kind of go back and say, what is the system that we need now? Not how do we rebuild the system that we used to have, or how do we get the system back that we used to have? For example, we are not talking about the fact that if we eliminate or say folks can only live in public housing for 2 years, they say, well, you got to get out of public housing. Well, one, where are they going to go? But two, we've got multiple generations of folks that have been living in public housing. Now, and that's like, so now, do you know how to use the systems of even getting out of public housing? There's not it wasn't, you have to get out of public housing in 2 years, and here's the bridge to you being able to do that. The entirety of the public housing system was designed to keep you there. Low wage rent. Here are all of these things that you can and cannot do in order to maintain this unit. And now you're saying, nope, you got to go in 2 years. I don't have necessarily the job or the income to get me a 1-bedroom apartment that's renting for $1,300 a month. So now we have to think about why some of these other things are happening in the system. So who's going to maintain these jobs of the folks that are being deported? Again, we keep saying everybody else's problem ain't our problem. It is our problem. It is our problem. The fact that those people are gone out of the low wage market who do you think they're going to get to do these jobs? Because
Well,
now
but he told us. And
now
I
you got
think
to
that's
pay.
where people wasn't listening. He said they're taking black jobs. We, and including myself, because I had to get myself, got on Facebook. Nah, I got a master's grad. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. This man, he deporting one, and he kept saying they are taking. So it was his goal to get us into that space. But then I'm not challenging it, but it's almost it's a mindset, because how you said about, okay, well, after 2 years, where are they going to go? So I understand, as a community, we need to have programs in place that help them grow as they go. I get that. I'm on board for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's our concept, even at the Regal Mindset. We're not going to throw out a problem without a solution, resolution,
Right.
or contact. But
Right.
in that same sense, I also partially on the side of Harriet Tubman when she says, until they know they're a slave, you can't help them be free.
Correct.
And regardless, on one thing about the Black community, handouts does seem easier. And we feel, some people in their mind feel that that is the 40 acres and a mule, when there are other opportunities out there where we can say, listen, I understand there's a low wage job out there, but let us get into a training or process and understanding e-commerce, understanding capitalism, so that while we're working those low wage jobs, we can show and how to pivot, so you can, here go a different way of doing it, not cashing chase checks and going to jail.
Well, so now you've hit, I think, the proverbial nail on the head, right? So
Mhm.
if you've got a system where you've got someone who has eliminated one group of core worker, right? Which was
Mhm.
doing jobs that we ain't want to do, ain't nobody want to do. They did
Yeah, I
those,
can't stand the heat like
right?
that.
Right. So, well, yeah, but think about the fact of why
Mhm.
you can't stand the heat like that, and why you won't stand the heat like that is because you have a history of that heat. You
Mhm.
understand, you're more adjacent to the history of that heat and that agriculture and that picking than you
Yep.
want. And you psychologically are way closer to, I'm not doing that,
Right.
than a whole lot of other folk. But now let's keep going with this, right? So if I deport one group of people,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
get them out. Now, here's the funny thing about agriculture, that really machines can't do these jobs. There are some machines that can, but for the most part, the fruits and vegetables that we pick are too fragile, whether you're a big agribusiness or you're a single Black farmer,
Mhm.
right? So you've got to have somebody do it. Now, what have you also done? You've got more Black men and women where? In prison.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
now, so I believe the next thing we're probably going to see is some sort of,
Start work
what,
release.
you want to
Yeah.
get out early? You want to cut your time in half? Well, here you go. Because the reality is that we've got to figure out a way to get these crops out of the ground.
Right.
Because that's the other piece, is that so many of these things are connected and we haven't put them together as being connected. But again, if we look at healthcare, $1 trillion worth of healthcare cuts. Everybody keeps saying, well, when we say 10 million people are likely to lose Medicaid, well, where's that? How's that? How much money is that? That's not how this is going to work. It's not going to work that one day Medicaid just gets cut off for 10 million people.
Right.
The eligibility requirements have changed. Now, instead of applying once a year, you got to apply twice.
Mm.
Now, instead of having no work requirement, you got to have a work requirement. You got to work some. And so, in case your disability was this, we got to now reclassify your disability. So, think
Mhm.
about how many people were on Medicaid in this country and how many people might miss an appointment, not know the eligibility requirement changed, not be able to make the new eligibility requirements. So we'll get rid of people that way.
Yeah.
So in fact, I still can say we didn't throw anybody off of Medicaid.
Right.
We just changed it. So that's those folks. So when we think about them, where are they going to go to get jobs? Well, they're even with my disability, I might have to go get one of those jobs to meet that work requirement. So
Right.
I'm creating a system where people will have to meet some sort of work requirement. So I'm creating a system to create my worker because I'm eliminating the other worker.
Mm-hmm. No, I
So
completely understand that.
yeah, 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 100%. Well, so just like you said, we're in that right now.
Right.
What can we do? Like, even if you say, okay, we may not be able to fix all the problems right now today. We cannot solve all these problems.
Right.
What can we do today? Or what would you recommend that we could do today to African American women
Art
who
or
show up
something.
to the world as masculine of centered, right? Where, as you shared, you don't see very many in leadership positions. What is it that we can do? What is it that people that are listening can do to be effective in their own communities, and how they can invoke change?
I think the number one thing I would say to anyone in this moment is to understand what that big beautiful bill is getting ready to do to your community. And
Mm-hmm.
your community, I when I say that, that goes to your state. Understand how much money your state may be losing. Understand what is about to happen to your healthcare system. What does this really mean? Don't do the it's not affecting me, or I don't see any changes yet, or they're overblowing it. Don't do that. Please don't do that. That's the thing. I think that when people ask me what keeps me up at night, it is the day when all of these things start to go into effect, right? Because what happened with the bill that the president signed on July 4th, this bill has changed so many things. And it doesn't change them right away.
Mm-hmm.
It changes them slowly and over time. The way you change things and you want to do it without like kind of shouting it is that you just don't fund it. You just don't pay for it. Right? So think about it. HIV in the black community is still on the rise.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
HIV in the substance using community is still on the rise. But now the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's HIV Bureau has lost nearly 80% of its budget. So we don't have a way to do HIV prevention. Who does that impact? Us. So
Wow.
pay attention to that kind of thing. When we think about the idea of these Medicaid and Medicare losses, think about the fact that I think it's something like 80% of seniors in this country use some sort of Medicaid, Medicare benefit. If
Mm-hmm.
these folks lose their health care, where are they going?
Mm-hmm.
What is old is new. Why do we have so many homeless people with behavioral health problems, so many veterans with behavioral health problems on the street? Not willy-nilly that they want to live on the street. When we experienced the Reagan era tax cuts, and when the Reagan administration cut a lot of these behavioral health programs, these folks ended up on the street. So what do we think is about to happen? It may not happen today, may not
Mm-hmm.
happen next week, but what it is going to do, it is going to affect the ability of people to be housed, to receive care in this country. And what we need to do is to understand what that is going to do, not just to our family and to us as individuals, but to our city, our state, and our town, because it's really going to have a ripple effect. And it won't be click the lights go out on Medicaid. It won't be click the lights go out on housing or click the lights go out on education. Again, $1 trillion in healthcare cuts. What we see next is the Department of Education going. Some of that money won't affect public schools right away, but it will over a shorter period, a longer period of time. So you've got to really get involved, even though you don't want to. You've got to get up, even though you don't want to. It's not somebody else's problem. It's your problem because it will find its way to your door within the next year and a half to 18 months. We are about to lose. If you live in a rural community in the United States of America, we started a project where we started mapping what we thought those closures would look like. We started thinking it was going to be 338 clinics. Our new calculus tells us that over the next 18 months, we believe that we're going to lose closer to 700 rural hospitals and clinics. We've been
Mm.
losing at least 10 a year for the last 10 years. This would be more than a third of the existing rural hospitals and clinics now. If that's your town, how do you get health care? If
Yeah.
that's your town, how do you get access to getting well? How do you get a well baby visit? How do you get to a clinic? If you're in our age cohort, we go to doctor every week. How you gonna get there?
True. Yeah.
So
Oh man.
if I had to say one thing to people is get involved, get engaged. This is your fight. It's not
Okay.
somebody else's. It's yours. It's ours. It is our fight.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Man. Jay, you got something to say? 'Cause I mean, you absolutely explained it to a T. We do have to peel back that onion on that big, beautiful bill and better understand how it affects us, like you said, from state, city, town, country, street, community, everybody.
All right.
And figure out what we're going to do, how we're going to, make some changes, what changes
So
we
I
can
would
make.
ask if you have those, I guess, nonprofit agencies that you wanted to shout out that viewers can participate in, donate to, to
Mhm.
kind of help push the cause. Because I
Right.
know for like up north, they have Chase Brexton. That was a
hmm
big community, that was an LGBT dominated healthcare
hmm
system.
Mm,
Right.
So, if you have,
Right.
let us know.
Right. Definitely organizations like Glisten, the Gay and Lesbian Student Alliance. Now, they're really changing their mission because of all of these budget cuts and state level changes. So they're changing their mission. But Melanie, who runs that organization, is a beast. I mean, and is doing work to help young people make sure that they can come into their own in a very good way. The Trevor Project helps kids that are struggling with behavioral and mental health challenges as well, particularly around suicide, right? I think that when we really think about those types of organizations are the ones that are really helping folks that are on the ground. I think that when we look at some of the gay and lesbian centers that are around the country, think about it. Most of the pride organizations, whether it's Black Pride or the state-based prides, they have lost a lot of money
yes, they
this
have.
because the sponsors pulled out. I think
Mm-hmm.
when we think about these younger groups, when you think about the trans groups that are now in peril now, I think organizations like ours, community education, we've laid off a third of our staff.
Sure.
And I think HIV organizations around the country, if you can go volunteer someplace, what's old is new. Back in the olden times, we volunteered at HIV organizations. Back in the olden times, we would volunteer at an LGBT organization. Now we show up, we give them a check, we pay our $25, we go to the party and we go home. But the reality is that they're not even going to be able to get the $25 from you for the party event because they're not going to have the sponsorships anymore. So
Mm,
maybe call the organization that has ever helped you is what I keep saying to people. If it was when you were 10, if you went to the Girl Scouts when you was 10, call the goddamn Girl Scouts. If you went to Boys and Girls Club, call Boys and Girls Club. If you have a friend who got helped by a HIV organization, call them. If your check is $10, great. If you can go volunteer for something, if maybe you became an IT professional and now you can go back and say, hey, do y'all need any IT help? I can volunteer and do that. I think we all have a place that meant something to us growing up or that it meant something to somebody else. We have got to reinvest in our own communities. We've just got to do it. This is not going to get done. The federal government's not coming back with money, and organizations and corporations have stopped giving in the way that they have. But those two, particularly organizations that deal with young people right now, I think are probably the most vulnerable because those young people are the most vulnerable.
mm-hmm.
If I could add in Covenant House, Yes
Covenant House.
Empowerment. Right. So, like the Yes Empowerment Centers, we have one in Baltimore where they drop
Mhm,
in shelters and predominantly for LGBT, where they can wash their
mhm,
clothes, get their mail, get a
right,
meal, things like that. So,
right,
donations go a lot of way. But I'm going to say this. I really feel that with a lot of the funding, especially from the donors like Target and the rest of them, really should have open our eyes to say they really wasn't for you. They were just trying to show social responsibility because they wrote it in as part of EEOC. So with that being said, keep your eyes open, because if they really supported you, they didn't put their money. They didn't take your stuff off the shelf if they really supported you. So always keep in mind, like you said, go back to those where you volunteered at and where you had some impact or was impacted, but also keep in mind with the same people with these donations, there are some that still support you, and you need to make sure that we recognize them. Maybe theirs wasn't as large as another one, but you still say thank you and still support them the way they support you.
Correct.
Good stuff. Listen, ladies, we have really had a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you both. We've talked about and unpacked the stigma or the derogatory term Bulldagger, and what it means now and how we're reclaiming that. And, you're able to choose how you want to use that word or how, if you choose to use that word going forward. We've talked about, the big, beautiful build and how we can, as masculine women, can show up in the world, and how we can advocate and what things we can do right now, today, in terms of being a valuable asset to ourselves, our community, and what we can do going forward, what changes we can make. We got to figure it out. Like you said, ain't nobody going to come save us.
Right.
Now, and I would say the only topic we didn't cover is y'all finding me a date.
Oh, man, listen.
Oh, okay. We're going to have to work on that.
Hey.
We're going to have to work on that.
We got a mission now.
Wait, where are you located?
I live in the DMV in the DC area.
Oh, that okay. Yeah, we got you. We in Baltimore, so yeah.
Okay.
Well, she's in Ohio, but we in Baltimore.
Okay.
All right. Well, we will definitely be inviting you back. Thank you so much again.
Thank you
Jay.
so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jay.
Thank you. Fun.
Absolutely.
Right.
Have a wonderful balance of your weekend. And until next time, keep a regal mindset.
All right. Peace.